Welcome to your essential business briefing. I'm Stephen Carroll. Coming up, delays, missed deliveries and fewer orders. We hear from some of the French companies dealing with the realities of Brexit. Building a bridge between Ireland and the rest of the EU. We'll talk about the shifts in shipping patterns that have happened since January 1st. Plus, training restaurant workers for a COVID-19 world. The students preparing for their future in a sector hit by shutdowns. It's been more than a month since the Brexit transition period ended, and companies on both sides of the English Channel are still adapting to the new rules. New checks and paperwork are needed for trade between the United Kingdom and the European Union. Here in France, it's meant disruption to deliveries and orders for many. Yinka Oyatade reports.
Brexit has been difficult to swallow for this French fish importer. Since the beginning of the year, the company has received hardly any of its usual supplies from Scotland, imports that are now subject to custom rules and checks before arriving on French soil. The extra red tape is causing major headaches for the company's manager.
Et là, c'est encore très abstrait pour la semaine prochaine.
He's trying to locate his Scottish imports in the hopes of delivering them to his clients on time.
We don't know if the fish will arrive on Thursday or Friday, but in terms of supply for my clients and in terms of availability and production, I have around 1.5 tons of raw fish currently on the road. We're still unsure about whether it will arrive.
Up to half of the fish sold by this fishmongers every month is imported from the UK. If the disruption continues, it could threaten the business's future, something that's already worrying its workers.
Yes, it's worrying. The future isn't certain.
It is not only imports that have suffered delays since January 1st. The new post-Brexit rules are also hitting exports from France to Britain. This bag company has seen its orders from the UK fall by 30%.
Since the beginning of the year, we have not received many orders from the UK. We have only 2 so far.
Brexit has also upended the company's expansion plans. Its owners were hoping to open a new boutique in the south of England. That project is now in doubt.
We're now interested in expanding outside France, and ideally to our closest European neighbours. Brexit has now limited our options for development.
Big challenges with no easy solutions. Brexit has caused a major shift in France's economic relationship with the UK. In 2019, it accounted for 10% of France's foreign trade.
The UK's departure has also posed new challenges for Ireland, which remains a member of the European Union. Around 40% of Irish trade with continental Europe used to be shipped via Britain, with trucks taking ferries from Ireland to Wales and then travelling by road to Dover before they connect to the continent. The post-Brexit red tape has led more exporters and importers to try to avoid that route. That's boosted demand for new direct ferry sailings between Ireland and France. Let's speak now to Ciarán O'Driscoll, who's Policy and Research Officer at the European Movement Ireland. He's an expert on Brexit and shipping. Ciarán, thanks for being with us. Can you start by explaining just how important that land bridge across the UK was for Irish companies before Brexit happened?
Yes, so in terms of the land bridge, it's hard to put into words how important it was for for the economy in Ireland. Just some stats, though, maybe might have to dress it up. In 2018, the Irish Maritime Development Office did a report about the impact Brexit might have on Ireland's use of the UK as a land bridge. Now, 40% in the value of Irish exports to the EU moved through the EU, and then 13% in the value of Irish imports from the EU moved through that. And the big reason why those numbers are so high, particularly for Irish exports, is because it was so easy to move across the land bridge. It was this kind of stable, reliable route, and that was largely due because both Ireland and the UK, being in the EU, kind of sharing that common membership, there was no customs controls. For the bones of 3 decades, it was a reliable, stable route that allowed trade to move very easily between Ireland and the EU.
So what has this change then meant for Irish exporters and importers? What's changed since the 1st of January?
The biggest change for importers and exporters for Ireland relates kind of around that stability around the land bridge. Generally, it takes about 20 hours to go from Dublin to Calais through Welsh ports and then English road networks. But because of Brexit, and there's that big thing which has been mentioned many times, but it removes the status quo. So for most businesses, it's what's the easiest route to market, and if you lose a day, you lose a market, as is often said. So with Brexit, it brings in questions and instability around, can goods move through the land bridge previously at their easy way to the continent. So what's likely to affect that change is would supply chains have to change. So depending if you're moving like chicken wire or chicken breast meat, each of them has their own shelf life. With chicken and any kind of those products, there's a short shelf life versus those kind of products like chicken wire, for example. So one can, for example, maybe take the delays that might come at the ports, be they in Wales or in England, or even going in the opposite direction, while something like chicken meat just can't.
So the decision that these companies have made is to shift then to the sea. How big a shift has that been towards direct routes between Ireland and France?
Well, if you look at the initial figures that some of the ports have published now for the month of January, if you look at Dublin, which again is that kind of key route in terms of ferry trade between Ireland and the UK, in particular for the land bridge, routes there, or in terms of freight units there, have declined about 50% in some cases, and that shows that there's been kind of like a fall off in companies using the land bridge, while the likes of Rosslare Europort, which previously had a very kind of small share of that roll-on, roll-off freight units, it's expanded by about 500% now in terms of January. So you can see there's been a shift away from those routes that would use the land bridge towards those direct services. And with the case of Rosslare, they've introduced a number of new services or expanded services on those direct routes, particularly to northern France, over the last couple of weeks and months. So you can see those initial trends for the month of January.
So it's going to take that bit longer for those goods to get to the continent, although perhaps more reliably. Is that going to impact the cost of goods, either Irish exports going abroad or imports coming in? Is that going to feed into consumers, do you think?
I think it will all rest with the consumers in their choices. And you've heard cases in Ireland where a lot of people are now using kind of the German Amazon to kind of get around the bottlenecks that happened in the UK, or even with workwear in European movement Ireland. We found when ordering some stationery from the UK before Christmas, it arrived only in January, and there was a €92 customs duty on it. So those are the kind of small things that we kind of, the below the surface that will kind of determine how customers will change away from what they buy traditionally from the UK. And with Ireland and the UK, there's always been those strong trade links for reasons to do with kind of language and geography that we're always quite reliant on the UK in terms of those supply chains. So it'll take time, because again we're only just into the second month of the post-Brexit world, or the eternal Brexit world that we all now live in. So those behaviours and choices that consumers will make will largely depend on as they navigate their way through a couple of months.
Do you think this will be a long-term shift? I realise, as you say, we're only a couple of weeks into it, but do you think this will be something that will become a permanent feature for importers and exporters?
If we look at how kind of port traffic movements will be kind of maybe the end of Q2, Q3, it's then if the current volumes where there's declines on routes, say now from Ireland to Wales, and increases then on those direct services then from Ireland to the EU, then we'll start to see things to stick. But then if you look at the expansive routes from the likes of Rosslare Europort and Cork and Dublin, these are all commercial companies making decisions for commercial reasons. So they're introducing these routes because they knew, and they've looked at the commercial potential of these routes. So they're doing it with a strong view and a strong belief that these routes will be viable for them, and because of that external pressures that come with Brexit. So that external pressure is that removal of the status quo which Brexit has brought in between Ireland and the UK, where the land bridge was again that stable, secure route from Dublin or Rosslare to Calais is now gone. And now the question relays, will mean, down the line, will things change? Will inspection procedures change in the UK? Will there be delays at, in future years to come at certain ports? So by taking those direct sea routes, it kind of takes the UK out of the equation in every sense of the word, and it brings in more stability. So from my view, yes, they'll be around for a very long period of time.
OK, Ciarán O'Driscoll from European Movement Ireland, thank you very much for speaking to us. Now, restaurants here in France have been closed since the end of October with no reopening date in sight. Despite the sector being in deep freeze, students are continuing to train for jobs in restaurants, bars and hotels. Hospitality schools have been forced to overhaul their methods as a result, as Catherine Viat now reports.
Salmon and teriyaki sauce, lemon cheesecake. Normally these are served in a restaurant, but the coronavirus pandemic is forcing this hotel training school to adapt and pivot to takeout.
C'est très bien, et ça leur permet de continuer comme s'il y avait toujours restaurant en fait.
The students still learn hospitality skills, only this time it's practiced on orders to go.
C'est vrai qu'on aurait pu l'imaginer, le client arrive, son sachet est prêt, on lui donne, merci, au revoir. Mais ça n'a pas de sens pour nos élèves. Le plus difficile pour les jeunes, c'est la communication.
Alors aujourd'hui, le thème, je vous le rappelle, c'est cuisine du monde.
In the kitchen, there are new challenges too, as everyone has to wear a mask.
On mettra un peu de sel, exactement. Quand on est amené à goûter, ça veut dire qu'on manipule le masque. C'est pas l'idéal.
Switching to takeout has meant the dishes are no longer served hot. This has forced the cooking instructors to adjust the way they work.
On va avoir à peu près les mêmes gestes, on va faire les mêmes choses, mais on va devoir prévoir du temps pour tout ce qui est refroidissement et conditionnement. C'est vraiment la grande différence.
Instead of plates, the prepared meals go into cardboard boxes. Another new skill to learn.
J'avais jamais imaginé ça.
At a cost of €11 for a three-course meal, the click and collect option is proving popular in the Paris suburb where the school is based. Reservations are booked up to 2 weeks in advance.
That's all from us for this week. You can watch back all of our previous shows on our website, france24.com. And you'll find us on social media for your comments and questions. Until next time, thanks for watching.
From North America to the southern tip of Patagonia, join us for a look at the latest political, economic, cultural and social news from the Americas.
Inside the Americas, presented by Jeannie Godula on France 24 and France24.com.